Hi, I'm Steelfur, and this is another episode of my new player hero guide, this time looking at Kassai of the Golden Sands. As a reminder, these videos are looking at the accessibility, the mechanical function, and the depth of all heroes, giving them a score out of 5, and then giving all new players a score out of 5 to give them an understanding of whether or not this hero is a good fit for new players. It covers key cards and strategy, but it does not cover deck techs and dive into those sorts of things, as those things are the most liable to change, and I want these videos to be useful for new players for a long period of time. If you are interested in Kassai and you're also interested in other heroes, there is a playlist associated with this video that will have all of the heroes in it in chronological order from newest to oldest. And if there's one missing, it just means it's being updated, or I'm working to put it out as it is sort of a live document that I keep taking videos down and updating them when they need to be. So let's dive in. Kassai of the Golden Sands is a arena fighting warrior that has walked straight out of Conan the Barbarian. She is here to win fights, earn gold, and avenge her homeland and get her life back. But let's hear what they say about Kassai. In Volkor's scorched wastelands, the Centauri taught Kassai how to survive. Now Kassai walks the merciless path of a battle-hardened warrior, each step leaving the sand stained with the blood of her enemies as she fights to reclaim the life torn from her. The days of training to take her father's place are long gone. Now she is the terror of the Golden Sands, the most lethal contestants in the deathmatch arena, where life is measured in the brutal clash of blades. The echoes of slashed throats and snapped necks fill her days, drowned out only by the roars of the crowd, yet the bloodthirsty cheers fall upon deaf ears, for Kassai harbours one singular purpose. That is the goal of getting revenge, and she needs money to do it. So, that makes sense. Let's understand Kassai's hero ability. If you've drawn a card this turn, your sword attacks cost 1 less resource to activate. Seems fairly simple. She will usually attack with 2 swords per turn. She's focused on giving go again to her weapons, so this will potentially save her 2 resources on turns where she draws cards. Once per turn action, banish 2 red and 2 yellow cards from your graveyard. The next time a weapon you control hits the hero this turn, create a gold token. Now, the banishing of 2 red and 2 yellow cards from your graveyard is primarily done as a way to slow visibility down, so you can't do it consistently every single turn, but it does have some interesting interactions. So, you know, if you're thinking about playing Kassai, there are places to look, mainly Nourishing Emptiness, that will give you cards that benefit from banishing cards from your graveyard. But on the face of it, we have a very simple hero. We have a hero that wants to attack multiple times with swords to make maximum use of this benefit, that wants to draw cards, and that also wants to generate gold tokens. As a warrior, Kassai is very weapon focused, so let's have a look at her signature weapon, the Centauri Saber. She can and will use 2 of these, 1 in each hand, and potentially attack with them both every turn. So, 1 cost attack, obviously free with Kassai's ability. When this is defended by 1 or more attack action cards, this card gets +1 until the end of a turn. So obviously this makes it quite difficult to defend this card with attack actions, because if you do block it with an attack action, it does get buffed. So if that attack action only blocks for 2, then now you are still taking 1 damage from this weapon. And also Kassai is very, very good at buffing her weapons, which means this might come in for 5 or might come in for 4, and then if you block with an attack action, you might end up actually taking an awkward amount of damage. So this ability, while seems quite low powered at the start, does actually become much, much more impactful. Also, Kassai is capable through combo cards of attacking multiple times with her weapons per turn. Not very often, but she can do that once or twice a game, and when she does that, if the attack is blocked on 2 separate occasions by attack action cards, it will get the bonus more than once. It is not a once per turn effect, so that is something that can also come into effect, and I have seen Centauri Sabers attack for 3, for 4, etc. Moving on then to Centauri Sellsword. So this is a warrior token mercenary ally. It costs 1 attack, go again. Can only attack if you've attacked with a weapon this turn. So obviously you might attack with the saber, and then if you have a Centauri Sellsword in play, you might then attack with the Sellsword as well. So a good turn for Kassai late game might be swing Centauri Saber, swing the second saber because she can run 2 of them, into a Centauri Sellsword. How do we get Centauri Sellswords? Well, Kassai's specialization in heavy hitters is Raise an Army. It's a 0-cost yellow pitch card. Blocks for 3 as well. As an additional cost to play this, you destroy X gold you control, and you create X Centauri Sellsword tokens. So now you're starting to see a bit of a play pattern. We're going to attack twice with her swords per turn. We're going to banish 2 red and 2 yellow cards to mean that if either of those swords hit, I get a gold token. And then we're going to try and build up that gold to the late game where I can destroy multiple gold to create Centauri Sellsword tokens. Now, if you're not familiar with the ally concept in Flesh and Blood, once these have been created, they sit on the table. They have 2 life, and much like a hero, you can attack them directly to kill them. If an attack hits this hero, it will trigger on-hit effects, but only those on-hit effects that say when this attack hits, not things that say when this attack hits a hero. So it's not counted as hitting a hero, but it is counted as hitting. So a card like Snatch that says when this hits, draw a card, will in fact draw you a card. But a card that says, for example, one of Disable or one of the Crush effects from Bravo that says when this deals 4 or more damage to the defending hero, that will not trigger because this is not a hero card. You'll then, of course, once you've done that, you're going to make 3 or 4 of these with your gold, and then you're going to have those on the board. And if anytime you have more resource, you have a blue in hand, you might go attack with a saber, get go again, attack with 3 sellswords. And that is a powerful way to break through your opponent's defenses late game, especially if they don't have any armor to deal with you. Kassai also features the whole suite of warrior attack reactions that are too numerable to include here, as well as some new juicy ones and heavy hitters, so she will be able to play those attack reactions to buff the weapons that she's attacking with to make it look more likely that they're going to hit, and that is a big feature of playing Kassai, is using attack reactions to get go again and also to buff your attacks, and that is the main focus of her mechanics, is to swing with her weapon, give her weapon go again, and then buff the weapon so that it hits so she can generate gold. She has a huge range of attack reactions, some from heavy hitters that are perfectly suited for Kassai, but she also has the option of diving into the entire pool of warrior attack reactions, which creates a large amount of flexibility. But ultimately, the reason she gets such a high mechanical score is that this isn't actually that complicated of a loop. You're attacking with your weapon, you're going to buff it either before you attack or after or both. Your opponent isn't going to know exactly what you're doing, but all you really have to do is look at your hand, look at your resources, and say, okay, I'm going to block with this card, swing with my weapon, and then I'm going to buff it with this attack reaction. And attack reactions are quite good mechanically because they are all bonuses. You could always still just swing with your weapon without them, but there is a huge benefit from using attack reactions properly. So it's quite a mechanically accessible thing, but it also lends itself towards being quite good for actual play and strength. She also has that strong late game strategy, not only in the card we saw before, but other cards such as Blood on Her Hands, which lend to a strong late game strategy as well. And she also has good block values and a good armor fridge. Fridge is a term that comes up a lot in Flesh and Blood. It basically means how much armor you're wearing, because the idea was if someone is walking around in a full suit of plate armor, they look a bit like a fridge. So if you have 2 block on all of your equipment and they have temper, then you're considered to be having quite a good fridge, because actually your armor can block for a total of 12 extra life compared to heroes without that, right? Also, in addition to that, most of her attack reactions and her weapon cards that give buffs and all those kind of things all have 3 block. So she has a lot of block to keep her life total high, which gives her the ability to focus on this, on good turns, not every turn, and also to focus on late game strategies, which makes her very mechanically friendly to new players. She's also quite accessible, I would say. She loses 1 star because attack actions add complexity, but they're not as complex as they might appear from a distance. So really, you kind of get that idea that attack actions are, you know, complicated because you might not know exactly which ones to play and exactly how to play them. But when you draw them on your turn, it's actually quite straightforward. I would also say that she's somewhat less accessible because go again ratios complicate her deck building. You know, you need to think, how many times am I giving go again to my weapons? How much go again do I need? But for a lot of new players, I do advocate deck teching, or just, you know, net decking a deck and just learning how to play via that. And a lot of the net decked versions you're going to download, the ratios are already taken care of. So you don't really need to worry so much about that. Just focus on figuring out how much other people are playing and do a bit of research, and you'll find yourself flying along. I will also say that opponents can disrupt your late game plans. You know, one of the good strategies against Kassai is to just not let her get any gold, so that her late game never really turns on. You could also see a situation where your opponent knows that you have your you know, you'll raise an army coming up, or you have a lot of gold and they're just working very hard to disrupt you. So just be aware that your late game plans can be disrupted, which is a bit of a feels bad from the accessibility perspective, but it's not super easy to do because hitting with the weapons a few times per game is quite straightforward. So I wouldn't say it lowers her accessibility score too much. Then on depth, I actually give her quite a high amount of depth. The first reason is that there's a lot of potential for mind games baked into the hero in terms of the attack reactions when you're triggering her ability to hit with the weapons and all these other kind of things. There's a lot of flexibility to play with your opponent, both on their expectations and also disrupting what they're trying to do, which I think gives her a lot of depth that players will resonate with. She also has a very flexible toolkit from the warrior class. So not only is it all these cards that block for 3, but it is also the big fridge. It is also a lot of attack reactions that do a lot of niche things that can then adapt your deck to the meta that's going on, which gives her a lot of depth that you can lean into and learn how to make her more flexible as things go on. She also has the options to change weapons and be more flexible with her equipment. You know, she's not always going to, because 2 weapons is kind of her thing and it is her main strategy, but there are other options out there that she could put in her one-handed offhand slot. There are other weapons she could use, and one of the reasons I think that adds to a lot of depth is that even if they're not used now, there may be a strategy in the future that does enable those weapons, which basically gives you more depth out of your card pool overall. So all of those things added together mean that I'll be giving Kassai a 5-star out of 5-star for new players. I think thematically she's amazing. I think her focus on weapon swings is very accessible. I think attack reactions are very accessible and of course give you a lot of power. I think you've also got other warriors who she can use cards from or use her cards in, which is another great thing on the accessibility. I feel like none of the disruption that's going to be happening to her is, you know, super reliable. She's not going to be a constant feels bad, things are going wrong. She's probably going to get to do what she wants to do a lot of the time. And I think there's just a lot of depth there in terms of mind games and the ability to do flexible things with warrior cards. So Kassai is going to get 5 stars. As always, if you've liked this video, please do like and subscribe. I am a content creator. I am fueled by people liking my videos. And, you know, if you have found this useful, or if there are any comments that haven't been answered, please do drop them in the comment section below, and I will monitor the channel and try and answer them for you, as getting new players into the game is a key focus of my channel. Also, I will say that if you are interested in other heroes, there is a playlist attached to this video that does have other heroes in. It should be going from newest to oldest in a chronological order, so starting with heavy hitters, moving on to bright lights, etc, etc. When I initially upload this video, they may not all be there, but the plan is, of course, to get that list completely fleshed out. I just want to start with these heroes when I'm starting the season. So if there is a hero that is missing from that list, it is either in one of the older videos that isn't updated yet, or it is pending an update, and I will have that video out for you soon. Thanks a lot for listening, and as always, have a good time and enjoy your adventures in the world of Wraith.